It was supposed to be just another ordinary evening. But life has a cruel way of flipping everything upside down when you least expect it. I had been married to Laura for 7 years of what I thought was a steady, if not perfect, marriage. Lately, though, things had felt different. She was distant, and excuses became her constant companion. Working late, errands running long, the ever-present, "I'm just tired." Her phone was always on silent, guarded like a state secret. I tried to convince myself it was nothing, just stress, but deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Tonight, I decided to step out for a drink, not for any special reason, just to clear my head. I ended up at a bar I used to visit with friends back in the day. Nostalgia, maybe. As I stepped inside, the dim lights and hum of conversation welcomed me back like an old acquaintance. But then I saw her. Laura. She was sitting at a corner table, laughing a kind of laugh I hadn't heard in years. It wasn't the polite, restrained laugh she gave me these days. No, this was carefree, genuine, and it wasn't me who brought it out of her. It was the man sitting across from her. He leaned in close, too close, and she didn't pull away. She touched his arm lightly, her fingers lingering longer than they should have. His hand rested on hers, his thumb gently stroking it. The way they looked at each other made my stomach churn. I stood there, frozen, unable to process what I was seeing. My wife, the woman I had loved and trusted, sitting there with another man, acting as if she didn't have a husband waiting at home. My feet moved before my mind could catch up. I walked toward their table, each step heavier than the last. They didn't notice me at first, too engrossed in each other to care about the world around them. When I finally reached their table, Laura's eyes met mine. Her laughter stopped abruptly, her face draining of color. She looked like a child caught stealing cookies, except this wasn't some harmless mistake. "Mark," she stammered, her voice shaky, "what are you doing here?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. Words felt too small, too insignificant to convey the storm inside me. Instead, I reached for my wedding ring, slid it off my finger, and clenched it tightly in my fist. Then, with a steady hand, I placed it on the table in front of her. Her eyes widened, panic flickering across her face. The man, her companion, looked confused but didn't say a word. "It's yours now," I said, my voice calm, colder than I thought possible. For a moment, the world seemed to stand still. Laura opened her mouth, as if to explain, to excuse, but I didn't wait to hear what lies she might spin. I turned and walked away, leaving her and her lover in the dim glow of that wretched bar. The cool night air hit me like a slap as I stepped outside, but I barely felt it. My thoughts were a hurricane, spinning wildly with questions, anger, and disbelief. How long had this been going on? How could she do this to me, to us? Little did I know, this was only the beginning. The truth that unraveled in the days to come was far more devastating than I could have imagined. Walking away from the bar felt like trudging through a storm. Every step I took carried the weight of betrayal. Each breath was heavier than the last. By the time I reached my car, I couldn't hold it together anymore. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. I sat there in silence, staring out into the night, trying to piece together the fragments of what I had just seen. Laura's face kept flashing in my mind. The shock, the panic, the guilt. How long had she been lying to me? How long had I been living a lie? I had spent years believing in the life we built together, and in a single moment, it all crumbled. I started driving without thinking. The road stretched endlessly in front of me, but I didn't care where it led. I just needed to escape. The quiet hum of the engine was the only sound as my thoughts spiraled. I replayed every suspicious moment, every late night at work, every deflection when I tried to get close. When I finally stopped, I found myself parked outside our home. The house looked so normal from the outside, its warm lights glowing softly in the darkness, but now it felt like a facade, a cruel joke. That house had been my sanctuary, but now it was just a reminder of everything I had lost. I couldn't go inside, not yet. Instead, I sat there, scrolling through memories in my head. Our wedding day, the vacations, the nights we spent dreaming about the future. They all felt like someone else's life, like a story that didn't belong to me anymore. After what felt like hours, I finally mustered the courage to go in. The living room was just as I had left it, with Laura's favorite blanket draped over the couch and the faint scent of her perfume lingering in the air. My chest tightened. I couldn't sit there, surrounded by her, so I went straight to the bedroom. Her side of the bed was untouched, neatly made, like she hadn't planned to come home tonight. I sat on the edge of the mattress, staring at the empty space where she should have been. My fingers absent-mindedly traced the indentation her body had left in the pillow, and then it hit me. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a moment of weakness or a lapse in judgment. She had made a choice. She chose to meet him, to hold his hand, to laugh with him, and she didn't choose me. The rage I had buried under shock came flooding back. I grabbed my phone and stared at her name in my contacts, my thumb hovering over the call button. But what would I even say? What words could possibly convey the depth of my anger and my hurt? Instead, I texted her, "I saw everything. Don't bother coming home tonight. You've made your choice." I hit send and immediately regretted it. It felt too simple, too easy. But what else could I do? The ball was in her court now. The hours dragged on, and the silence of the house grew louder. My mind raced with possibilities. Was she still with him? Was she even sorry? Did she care at all? When my phone finally buzzed, I flinched. Her name lit up the screen, but it wasn't a call, just a single text. "Mark, it's not what you think. Let me explain." My blood boiled. Not what I think. I had seen her with my own eyes, sitting there, completely at ease with another man. What kind of explanation could she possibly have? I didn't reply. I couldn't. Instead, I threw my phone onto the bed and paced the room, my thoughts a whirlwind of anger and disbelief. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. I needed answers, not from her, but from myself. How did I let this happen? What did I miss? And most importantly, what was I going to do next? This wasn't just about a broken marriage. It was about reclaiming my dignity, my life. Laura might have betrayed me, but I wasn't going to let her destroy me. And so, as the sun began to rise, I made a decision. The man I was before last night was gone. What came next would be on my terms, not hers. The next morning, I woke up to an empty house and a pounding headache. Sleep had been impossible. My mind was a battlefield of anger, confusion, and disbelief. Laura hadn't come home. Her absence was both a relief and a painful confirmation of the truth I already knew. I checked my phone. No missed calls, just a series of texts from her. "Mark, please talk to me. I can explain everything. You don't understand the situation." Each message made my stomach churn. Her excuses felt like daggers. I tossed the phone onto the counter and went to the kitchen, hoping a cup of coffee might make sense of the chaos in my mind. By mid-morning, I couldn't take the silence anymore. I needed answers. I needed to hear her admit what I had seen with my own eyes. Against my better judgment, I called her. She picked up on the first ring. "Mark," she said, her voice soft, almost pleading, "I'm so glad you called." "Cut the crap, Laura," I snapped. "I want the truth. Who is he?" There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing, but no words came. "Say something," I demanded, my voice rising. Finally, she spoke. "His name is Eric. He's just a friend. Just a friend." I laughed bitterly. Friends don't hold hands and whisper in bars, Laura. "It's complicated," she said, her tone shifting to frustration. "You don't understand." "Then explain it to me," I shouted, slamming my hand on the counter. "Make me understand why my wife is sneaking around with another man." She was silent again, and this time, I didn't wait. "You know what? Forget it," I said, my voice cold. "If you can't even admit what you've done, we're done." "Mark, wait," she started, but I hung up before she could finish. I stood there, gripping the phone tightly, my chest heaving. The conversation had left me with more questions than answers, but one thing was clear: Laura wasn't going to give me the truth. Later that day, I decided to take matters into my own hands. If she wouldn't tell me the truth, I'd find it myself. I logged into our shared phone account and started going through her call and text history. It didn't take long to find Eric. His number appeared over and over again, at all hours of the day and night. My heart sank as I scrolled through the timestamps, each one another piece of evidence I didn't want to believe. Then I noticed something else, a hotel booking under her name. The reservation was from 2 weeks ago. My stomach turned. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the pieces were starting to fit together. I needed to see it for myself, to confirm what I already knew in my gut. With a heavy heart, I grabbed my keys and headed to the hotel. The drive to the hotel felt like an eternity. Every second was filled with the pounding of my heart and the deafening echo of my thoughts. What would I find there? Did I even want to know? But deep down, I already knew the answer. When I arrived, I parked in the far corner of the lot, far from prying eyes. The hotel was one of those mid-range places, nice enough to not draw suspicion but not extravagant, the kind of place someone would choose if they wanted to stay unnoticed. Inside, the lobby was quiet. A young receptionist stood behind the counter, typing something into her computer. I approached her, trying to look as composed as possible. "Hi," I said, forcing a polite smile. "My wife was here recently, and I need to confirm something. Can you check a reservation for me?" She hesitated, clearly unsure whether she should help. "I'm not really supposed to share guest information." "Please," I said, lowering my voice. "It's important." I slid my driver's license across the counter, hoping it would add some credibility. Laura Henderson. It would have been a couple of weeks ago. The receptionist glanced at my ID, then at me, before typing something into her computer. She checked in. The receptionist said finally, her voice cautious. "It was just for one night." "Was she alone?" I asked, my throat tightening. She hesitated again before answering. "I can't say for sure, but..." She glanced around, lowering her voice. "A man joined her later that evening." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I had expected it, but hearing it out loud made it real. "Thank you," I muttered, barely able to get the words out as I turned and left. Outside, I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel as anger and humiliation washed over me. This wasn't just a one-time mistake or an innocent misunderstanding. Laura had been lying to me, living a double life. I pulled out my phone and opened the Photos app. There were pictures of us together, smiling, happy, or so I thought. Now they felt like cruel reminders of how blind I had been. My mind raced with questions. How long had this been going on? Who else knew? Did any of our friends or family suspect? I needed answers, and I wasn't going to stop until I had them. When I got home, Laura's car was in the driveway. For a moment, I sat there, staring at it, trying to calm the storm inside me. I had to stay in control, no matter how much I wanted to explode. Inside, she was sitting on the couch, her phone in her hand. She looked up as I entered, her face a mix of guilt and apprehension. "Mark," she started, her voice soft. "I've been trying to reach you." I stood in the doorway, my arms crossed. "Yeah, I'm sure you have. But I've been busy finding out the truth." Her eyes widened slightly, but she quickly composed herself. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone, showing her the screenshots of her call history and the hotel reservation. "Does this jog your memory?" Her face went pale. "Mark, I can explain. Don't you dare." I snapped, my voice sharp. "Don't you dare insult me with another lie. I know everything, Laura. I went to the hotel. I know about Eric." She opened her mouth to respond, but closed it again, clearly struggling to find the right words. "Just tell me why," I said, my voice breaking. "Why did you do this? Was I not enough for you? Was our life together not enough?" Tears welled up in her eyes, but I didn't feel an ounce of sympathy. "It wasn't like that," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean for it to happen." "You didn't mean for it to happen?" I repeated, my anger boiling over. "You don't accidentally book a hotel room, Laura. You don't accidentally sneak around with another man." Her tears spilled over, and she buried her face in her hands, but I didn't care. I had spent enough time feeling sorry for her, for us. Now it was her turn to feel the weight of what she had done. "You made your choice, Laura," I said, my voice cold. "Now you have to live with it." With that, I turned and walked out of the room, leaving her to face the wreckage of her actions alone. I spent the next few days avoiding Laura as much as possible. The tension in the house was unbearable. She tried to talk to me, to plead her case, but I wasn't ready to listen. Every time I looked at her, I saw her in that bar, laughing with him, and it made my blood boil. One evening, as I sat in the living room, staring blankly at the TV, she finally worked up the nerve to confront me. "Mark, we need to talk," she said, standing in the doorway. I didn't even look at her. "There's nothing to talk about." "Please," she said, her voice trembling. "I know I messed up, but I can't stand this silence. We need to figure out where we go from here." "Where we go from here?" I said bitterly, finally turning to face her. "The only place we're going is divorce court." Her face fell, and for a moment she looked genuinely devastated, but I couldn't tell if it was because she regretted what she'd done or because she didn't want to face the consequences. "Mark, it wasn't serious," she said desperately. "It didn't mean anything. I was just lost. I didn't know how to deal with everything, and Eric was there. He listened. "Don't you dare try to make this about me." I snapped. "You didn't turn to Eric because you were lost. You turned to him because you wanted to. Don't act like this was some cry for help." She opened her mouth to argue, but quickly shut it again. She knew she couldn't spin this into something it wasn't. "Do you even love me, Laura?" I asked, my voice quieter now. "Or was this all just a game to you?" Her lip quivered, and she looked away. "I do love you," she said softly. I made a mistake." "A mistake?" I scoffed. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is burning dinner. What you did was a choice, a deliberate choice to betray me." She didn't respond, and the silence hung heavy in the air. "I can't do this anymore," I said finally, standing up. "You've destroyed everything we had." "Mark, please," she begged, tears streaming down her face. "Don't throw away everything we've built together." "I'm not the one who threw it away," I said coldly. "That was all you." I walked past her, ignoring her sobs as I headed to the bedroom. I started packing a bag, knowing I couldn't stay in the house any longer. Every corner of it felt tainted by her betrayal. As I zipped up my suitcase, Laura appeared in the doorway, her face red and swollen. "Where are you going?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Anywhere but here," I replied, brushing past her without another word. I checked into a small motel on the edge of town. It wasn't much, but it was better than staying in that house. Over the next few days, I began putting my plan into motion. First, I called a lawyer. I wanted to make sure that when this was all over, I walked away with as much of my dignity and my assets as possible. Laura wasn't going to get away with this without consequences. Next, I started gathering evidence. I saved screenshots of her call logs and messages, took notes on everything I had discovered, and even managed to get a copy of the hotel receipt. I wanted to be prepared for whatever came next. As I sat in that motel room, surrounded by the mess my life had become, I realized something. This wasn't just about Laura. This was about me taking control of my life again. She had taken so much from me, but I wasn't going to let her take everything. One night, as I was going through some old photos on my phone, I stumbled across a picture of us from our honeymoon. We were on the beach, smiling and holding hands. It felt like a lifetime ago. I deleted it. It was time to move on. The next morning, I got a call from Laura. I hesitated before answering, but curiosity got the better of me. "What do you want?" I asked, my tone flat. "Mark, please come home," she said. "We can fix this. I'll do whatever it takes." "It's too late for that," I replied. "You made your choice, Laura. Now you have to live with it." "I made a mistake," she said, her voice breaking, "but I love you. I don't want to lose you." "You already did," I said, hanging up. As I sat there, staring at the phone, I felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was finally taking control of my life. This wasn't the ending I had envisioned for our story, but it was the one I needed. And now, I was ready to start writing a new chapter, one where I didn't have to carry the weight of her betrayal anymore.